monomials. So as a quick reminder, when you multiplied monomials, so say you had x cubed times x squared, you ended up adding the exponents. 3 plus 2 is 5. When you divide, well, think about the opposite operations. The opposite of multiplication is division. The opposite of addition is subtraction. So here, x cubed divided by x squared, that's going to give me x to the first power, because 3 minus 2 is 1. If I did it the long way, x cubed, that's repeated multiplication. If I look, these cancel out, I'm left with x to the first power. We spoke about what happens when you raise something to the 0 power. Let's show why that's always 1. Say I have x to the 5th power divided by x to the 5th power. Well, you may remember the basic concept that any number divided by itself is 1. For example, if you have 2 divided by 2, that gives you 1. 7 divided by 7, that gives you 1. 8 divided by 8, that gives you 1. X to the 5th divided by x to the 5th is going to give us 1. We know our final answer here is going to equal 1. If I employ that quotient of powers property, 5 divided by 5 is 0. Anything divided by itself is 1. So representing this as anything to a 0 exponent will always just be itself, 1. So let's do some more examples. Actually, before we get to those practice problems, I'm going to just do some other examples. Okay, so let's say you have x to the 4th y squared divided by x y cubed. Well, what you do here is you divide, you look at the terms that have the same base. So 4, this exponent is 1. So with division, you end up subtracting the exponent. So that's x cubed. And this is y to the negative 1 power, because 2 minus 3 is negative 1. I want to write this so the exponents are positive. So the x cubed stays in my numerator, and this term becomes a positive exponent once I rewrite that in the denominator. Now you might have some examples where there's a lot more going on. So let's say you have 7x squared y over 3xy to the 4th. That's 7 over 3. It's regular division. I can't reduce that. X squared and x, 2 minus 1 is just positive 1. And here, 1 minus 4 is a negative 3. So when I rewrite this with my positive exponents, this is what my answer would look like. Let's do an example where you have to raise something to a negative power. So before I raise everything to this power, I like to simplify what's going on inside of the parentheses. So first, 5 over 10 reduces to 1/2. X squared over x, well, 2 minus 1 is a positive 1, so that just gives me x. And then 5 minus 1 for that y term gives me 4. Because this is multiplication, when you multiply by 1, you really don't need to write it out there, so I'm just going to get rid of that 1. That'll just give me less stress. When I'm raising this entire thing to the negative 2 power, I have to employ that property, the power of a power property, where you end up multiplying this. So 1 times negative 2 gives me negative 2. 4 times negative 2 gives me negative 8. And this 2, I also have to raise that to the power. That gives me negative 2. Now again, when you rewrite the answer, all the exponents have to be positive. Here you notice that you have a negative exponent in the denominator. So let's use logic. If when I rewrite something that has a negative exponent, when it's in the numerator, when I switch it to the denominator, it becomes positive. So here it would be the other way around. In the denominator, the exponent is negative, so when I switch it, to the numerator, it becomes positive. Here, x to the negative 2, that's negative in our numerator, so when I switch it, it becomes a positive. Here, when I switch that, that also becomes a positive. At the end, I then evaluate the coefficient that's being raised, and I get 4 over x squared y to the 8. Okay, so just to clarify that concept, if you raise something that is a quotient to a power, you have to raise each term to that power. At the end, I like to then evaluate. This is very similar to the concept where you had to raise a power, remember a power to a power, where you multiply 3 times 2 is 6. So now when you have a problem, say there are more terms going on though, I still get a 6, I get a negative 4, and here when I rewrite that, I get y to the 4th. I know I wrote those a little fast, so you can rewind and replay, press pause, and do what you need to do so that you can get these problems down and understand them effectively.